first thing, Mr. Gentry has passed out a proposed draft of an amendment, and it goes somewhat in line to what Mr. Moore said. When we read the bill closely, we realized that it was actually doing something more than what Senator Bennett was the primary author. I think it was going more than what he intended, and Senator Shealy and I are co-sponsors. I think it went beyond what we had intended as well. So this amendment, it's going to rewrite the bill, but essentially what it would do is it would just make clear that if you have a concealed weapons permit, you can carry into a business that sells alcohol. You just could not drink. You could not carry in somewhere where the business tells you, they post a sign saying they don't want you to carry. Just to ensure that there is no loophole that actually gives people without a permit more of a right than the people who do have a permit. That would have been a big problem, and certainly not one that we intended, but I think we've got that fixed with the proposed amendment here. Have y'all, I know each of y'all had an opportunity to look at it, right? Okay, are there any questions here about this proposed amendment? Senator Dorchester?
No, I don't have a question about it. I just want to reiterate my goal in proposing the legislation. The beauty of the legislation, I thought, was it's a very narrow focus. It's not an omnibus weapons bill. It's a very narrow focus. The two things that we wanted it to do, and that I think that the amendment makes it a better bill, is A, as the gentleman stated, it restores some rights to people that should have those rights. And at the same time also protects the rights of a business owner if they choose, whether they serve alcohol or not to want people to come in their establishment. And I think it's a good balance. Certainly it's not perfect. There was no comment made today by anybody that I necessarily disagree with. And sometimes you need to do things that you feel you can get past, and I think this is a good compromise from everybody.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that. And I'm glad we had the comments that we had today, because I lost count after a while, but I had somewhere between 400 and 500 emails on this, a couple hundred phone calls. I tried to respond to the first 200 or 300, but so if you were in the second 200 or 300, I probably didn't respond to you. It's just too much for one man to handle. I apologize. But most of the comments that I received were, and when I say most, probably 99 to 1 were in support of the bill. And the comments that I had that were either opposed or maybe had some concerns about it were we're dealing with the penalty, well, actually more of the enforcement of it, about how do you enforce people not drinking while they're in a restaurant. And my response to that is, these are the good guys. These are the people who have undergone the background checks, they've taken the classes, they've paid the money, they've been fingerprinted. These are the folks who have gone through the effort in order to get that permit. And they are not going to jeopardize losing that permit, certainly not going to jeopardize going to jail in order to have a beer. I think that makes no sense. And we are dealing with sensical, logical people. I mean, these are the good guys. These are the ones, as Senator Dorchester said earlier, I mean, these are the people that you want to have there. So I think that makes sense. Now, I'll say too, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I understand some of the comments about that CWP holders should be trusted in order to have a drink. I'll tell you personally, I think that dooms the bill. Now, I think this bill has a real shot at passage. I do. I've been on the subcommittee the past few years that's looked at this type of legislation. It's always got bogged down with different things. Much of that has been changed because senator to my right. In all honesty, but there's still other issues that give people concerns, and so I like the fact, Senator, that you try to narrowly tailor it to address this specific issue. I mean, this is something we should have done this years and years and years ago. But it takes a while to, as one person mentioned, it takes a while to restore rights. And hopefully this is maybe a small but a significant step in that direction. So I like the narrow focus because I think we've actually got a pretty good chance of getting it done with that focus. And I get concerned that if we go too far beyond that, that it could actually have a backlash. That's my thoughts on it.
I agree with that as well, and I think that the alcohol consumption does probably kill the bill. Now, that doesn't mean I don't disagree with it. I think Mr. Baker, as a matter of fact, I would probably be one to propose that having a glass of wine with your lasagna is required. And maybe there's legislation to that, but probably not in this legislation, but thank you.
Senator Left.
I agree with everything, or most everything that was said today. I think that narrowing the bill is the only way to get it passed. You know, I can tell you how many emails I received as of this morning. I have 864, and only one said don't pass this bill. So I know that we need to get it passed, and you know, I'm in strong support of it, so I want to see it get passed, but I believe if we do put the alcohol consumption on there, it will kill it. Not that I don't agree with you, because I want a glass of wine with my lasagna too, but I will forego my glass of wine with my lasagna to get this bill passed. So I want to see us move ahead with it. So I appreciate y'all being here today.
All right, thank you, Senator. Does anyone else have any proposed amendments? I wanted to just kind of run through what I think were the issues that we heard. Concerns about the penalties, concerns about not being able to drink, which we just addressed, concerns about differentiating between restaurants and bars, concern that Mr. Moore brought up about this appeared, the bill as drafted appeared to address more than just the CWP holders. I think we've dealt with that. And then also the signage, and I think we've dealt with that with our amendment too, because it specifically refers to the statute that talks about the sign requirements. Does any subcommittee have any comments about any of those issues that we haven't talked about? Let me just say this, Jeff. I'm happy to talk with you and anybody else about distinguishing between restaurants and bars. I understand your concern there. I agree with Senator Bennett. I mean, I think most of the shooting going on is not from CWP holders. These are the shooting is coming from the bad guys as opposed to the good guys. The other, I guess my other concern about this is that I know in the last couple of years when we've been dealing with this, that's been one of the primary reasons that's held this thing up, is because we've never been able to figure out a good way to differentiate between restaurants and bars in a way that would be enforceable, or in a way that the CWP holder and law enforcement would understand the distinction. I'm happy to talk about that at some point. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to make it work right now.
I agree with that. I think everybody kind of agrees with that. That as the saying goes, it's always the devil's in the details and how you word that to where it's not a challenge for law enforcement. It's not a challenge for the CWP holder. It's not a challenge for the court system if it were to go there. I think that may also be an area where we get the trade-off. I certainly understand the objection to the penalty in the bill. I don't know that I necessarily agree that that this is a simple trespassing penalty. I don't know that I necessarily agree that the penalty that we have in here it is harsh, but maybe that's the trade-off of not identifying and trying to limit the scope of where you can go. And, you know, does this place have beer and wings or wings and beer? You know, those sorts of discussions. So I echo your concern. I'm happy to talk about it, but I just don't know how we could get a good, clean, simple bill, and again, get it passed.
Yeah, I mean, those are issues that I've thought about some before today, and certainly I thought about them this morning as we've been sitting here listening to folks speak. I mean, I guess ultimately I come back to the point too that I think these are the good guys, and these are the folks who they've gone through the effort in order to get a concealed weapons permit, and we need to trust them because we've given them the permit. By giving them the permit, we're saying that we're trusting them to carry. So, to some extent, I think we've got to trust them. Now, I'll say, and y'all know this, and I realize there are a whole lot more concealed weapons permit holders than what in this room, right? But also, there's a pretty significant email network. But on the recipient of it, the receiving end of it. Like, y'all know that if we pass this, and I hope we do, I think we can, but y'all know that if one concealed weapons permit holder does something stupid, that everybody's going to get blamed for it. That's not fair, but that's the reality. So I would encourage you that once we get this thing moving, please try to educate the other people in your email network so that they know where we're moving towards, to try, because education is the best thing to do here, so that everybody knows what the law is and they know the ramifications of it. Because it wouldn't just be a 2-year, $2,000 fine. It would be something that would hurt everybody else too. It would hurt all the good guys. So just want to put that out there. All right. Anybody in the subcommittee have any other comments? All right. If there are no other comments, then is there a motion? It's been moved for a favorable report as amended. All right. First of all, we need to adopt the amendment then, I suppose. All right. Is there any opposition to the amendment? No? All right. Then we've had a motion for a favorable report as amended. Is there any opposition to that? All right. We'll move it forward, and it's unanimously passed from this subcommittee. We'll put it forward. Hopefully it'll be on the agenda for the full Judiciary Committee meeting on Tuesday. There were several things yesterday that we didn't get to on that agenda, so I don't know whether it'll actually come up. Hopefully we'll be able to get through there, but it will be on the agenda for next Tuesday, and hopefully we can get it moving. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your attendance.